Incoming voice call from Sah. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for this interesting session hosted by Galvanize. The topic of today's session is how to choose the right country for your master's, PhD, or MBA. So let's go ahead and start the session. A quick intro about me. My name is Jayanthy Ramakrishnan. I have a PhD from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. Having worked a few years in the US, I'm currently back in India working with students and professionals who want to go for their UG or PG abroad. And we have a whole team which works with students from end to end, from their test prep as all the way to admission counseling and so on. So, like I just talked about Galvanize, we start working with students who are interested in going for their undergraduate degree abroad or their master's, MBA, or PhD. We start with profile building because we are experienced in the field. We can advise you on what you need to do to build a great profile. We help you with the necessary tests that you need to take SAT, GRE, TOEFL, IELTS, as well as with the admissions process, whether for bachelor's, master's, MBA, or doctorate degrees. Our company is founded and managed by alumni of Stanford, IIT Madras, and IIM Ahmedabad. A quick uh, preview about the countries that we have helped students from. As you can see in the list here, we have students from over 65 plus countries whom we have helped in the study abroad journey. The entire process is done online. So no matter where you are located, we will be able to help you out. The next step, of course, is having helped students from so many countries. I also wanted to list some of the great admits that we have got for our students. We have got thousands of admits, but just to list a few, I have published a few of the university names here. So do check out information about us on Quora. Do your due diligence. Look at the feedback that we have got from our alumni students. That way, you will know what kind of service we provide, as well as if you have any questions. We are always happy to talk to you to understand your profile and give you personalized guidance before you enroll. Okay, so now moving on to the country, today's topic, we are basically going to talk about primarily on how to choose the right country. And I've broken it down into a few parts so that you understand what I'm talking about and what are the factors that you need to keep in mind when you decide which country you're going to go and study for your master's, your PhD, or your MBA. So these are broadly the highlights of the session. So let's go ahead and start. Now, what I want to do first is talk about what country you should choose. Now, this is a very common question that we come across when we talk to students who have decided that they want to go and study abroad. The first question they ask us is, what country should I choose? This is what I want to study. What country should I choose? Now, this is the common question that they come with to us. And what I want to tell you that this is the wrong question, because this question really does not have a perfect right answer, because you're not trying to buy a product that fits your needs, right? You're trying to find out what is the right decision for you, which is going to not only determine your studies for the next few years, as well it is also going to determine your job prospects. What are the chances of you getting a job in that country after you finish your degree? And if some of you have decided to settle down over there after you finished your degree, got worked for a few years, and you like the lifestyle there and you want to settle down there, then what are your options? So you have to understand first how each country works out in all of these things before you decide which country. So you're essentially not looking at a product, you're looking at a system. You have to see what system, which country system is going to work for you. You also have to understand that all the countries are not going to optimize for all your outcomes simultaneously. So no country is going to be the best for studying as well as working afterwards, as well as settling down afterwards. So these are some things that you have to keep in mind, and you have to prioritize what you want from the system before you decide which one you are going to choose. Okay. So going into this process, it is better if you are aware of these facts before you blindly decide that this is the country that I want to go and study. Okay. So like I just talked about, so the decision that you're actually making here is you're entering into a education, employment, and an immigration system. And each of the system will reward some profiles in some way. It will also punish some profiles in certain way. So you have to understand what you're signing up for before you decide on a particular country or two countries. Okay. Now, the sad part is all of this awareness you may or may not have at the time of deciding when you are applying for admission. And many of you may also be advised that this is not something that you have to think about now. You can think about it after you finish your education. Well, that is true in some sense, but it is not entirely true if you don't plan ahead. So, for example, if you're going for a 1.5 year degree, that is not a whole lot of time for you to, say, okay, I'll finish my degree and then see what happens. It is very important that if the country you're deciding to go is offering you a master's program in 1.5 years, you also should know what is going to happen after you finish that degree. What is going to be my stay back period? What if I decide to get a job there? Is it easy for me to get a work visa? Uh, and once I get my work visa, what are the chances for getting it converted into a permanent residency? So these things, may feel trivial at the time of admission, but these are some things that you have to think about and then decide on the country and the system that you want to get in. Okay, so just to reiterate that, let me give you an example. Say there are two students who have the same degree, who have the same grades, and who have the same skills, but they chose different countries. And in one country, there is a very deep hiring market, or that particular degree that the student studied has a lot of job opportunities with good visa options as well. So that student may actually get more options for interviewing with the companies, as opposed to the second student who went to a country where the program is very good, but the market for that particular program is not that deep, and there are not many employment opportunities available for that program. So now here the problem is not that the student did not do well in their course. The problem is the system that they entered. So it's not a talent problem. It is a systemic problem that cannot be fixed by the student, but the decision has to be taken by the student beforehand and on where they are going to go. Okay. So I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to tell you. Let's talk a little bit more. Now, what happens is we have seen that we come across students who have excellent profiles, but they actually choose the wrong country, or at least when they enroll with us, they have a country in mind, and then we are able to guide them in understanding why that may not be the right choice. Okay. First of all, most of the students decide the country based on the ranking of the universities in that country. Now, you have to understand that the ranking talks about the reputation of the university. It does not necessarily talk about what happens to all of those students who graduate from that university. Where do they get jobs? And what is the hiring market in that particular country? Okay, so you have to be understand that. What I'm trying to say is you may go to a top university, but the program you studied there, while it still may be from offered by a top university, may not have a lot of job opportunities right there, in which case you have chosen, even though you have a good education from an excellent university, you may not find it easy to find a job. The other thing which is also very common with some of the students is They don't want to do the research, they want to take shortcuts. So they look at what their friends are doing, they look at what their seniors in the university have in their college have done, and they decide that okay, if that person has done this, I'm also going to do this. Again, different situations, everybody's situation will be different, so you may not be able to uh, effectively make a decision based on that. Okay. Now the other thing is, sometimes what happens is students decide on some university based on certain factors. Like they may feel that, oh, this is a safe country, not in terms of security, but in general, these countries these universities are good, and generally the country has good visa options, generally the country has good job markets. Keeping that in mind, what happens is they have chosen a safe option, but they also may not realize that for that particular field, if that country is the best option or not. So all of these reasons, contribute to making the wrong decision. Again, it is not due to lack of intelligence or talent in the student, it is just using the wrong logic to make a decision. Okay, now this is very important. Course versus university versus country. Now, what happens is, many students think that all of these matter equally. It is not entirely true. Again, it depends on what your specific requirements are and how the particular country or system is going to help you out with that. What I'm saying is, a course necessarily determines what skills you are going to build during the 2 years or 3 years or 5 years of program that you're going to do. The university that you're getting the degree from, it signals to the market basically how credible you are. Obviously, the better the university, the better you are also ranked. And the country is the one that decides whether it actually needs people from that particular skill and that credibility. So all of these three things have to align for you to actually find a job. Okay, so it is very important that these decisions of course, university, and country are taken with a lot of thought. Course, of course, is something that you may have already decided because you're already probably studying in that field, or you have an interest in that field, and that's why you have decided that course. What is many times a point to decide now would be the university and the country once you have the course fixed. Okay. Now let's talk about the case where the course quality matters more than the country. Now, this is very important. Now, when does the course quality matters more than the country? To a very large extent, in my experience, I would say most of the times, but let me talk about some specific cases. Okay. So specialized programs, if you have specialized programs in that you are looking for, I'll give you some examples later. Those are in global demand because they are specialized and niche programs. They are not available everywhere, and every university probably does not offer that program. In which case, it is very important that you if you pick a specialized program, then your demand is going to be higher when you finish the degree. Because it is a niche program, the faculty who work in that program are also going to be well sought after. So they can open a lot of doors for you with respect to research, with respect to publications, and so on. So here again, the geography doesn't matter, even if you're, say, studied in the US, but if your program is sought all over, you may get a job in Germany. So it kind of makes it easier for you to have that mobility. So in such cases, the course quality overrides the country. Okay. Let me give you an example. So say, for example, a student who specializes in computational solid mechanics and advanced materials. He or she is working under a faculty member who has been publishing constantly in high impact journals, whose work is very well known to the world, and whose work itself is a specialized niche kind of work. Okay. Now, what happens is because this is such a strong course, it has globally transferable skills. You get access to international conferences and journals. And if a PhD is something that you are looking to do, your access to those opportunities also improves. Because if you're looking for a PhD program, more than the geography, the candidates, they are tested on their output. So if you have been able to do very good research under a specific, like extremely well-known faculty, that really opens up doors for you. Okay. So in research heavy courses, the course and the advisor outweigh the country because the work itself is globally legible and it is transferable to any from country to country. Now let's talk about the other case when the country matters more than the course. Now, if you go into one of those common programs, CS or any of the engineering fields, these are large markets. Okay, there is always a requirement for these students. In such a case, even if your profile is not 100% fit for the job profile that they want, you will still get a chance to work and learn on the job. But if you're looking for a very specific type of profile that is needed for a job, then, even if you have learned about it a little bit, if you are not an exact match, you are going to get filtered out. Okay. So in such cases, obviously, you don't want to go to a country where there are such niche requirements and then study something else for which you don't have opportunities right then and there. Okay. Now, moreover, the reason why this happens is all the countries have some kind of visa requirements that they have to do for people that they employ who are not citizens of their country. So they will actually think about it and say, okay, this student or that I'm going to hire, this candidate that I'm going to hire, are they really worth me spending the money and sponsoring their visa? This is a very common question that they will ask, and only if check all boxes and you are on the favorable side, the company is going to make the effort to do that visa process for you. Okay, so we have seen that even if you have a very strong degree, but from a very common field, you may struggle for getting a job if you are not in the correct market. Okay, so for example, I have another example here. Say you decided to do a MS in manufacturing or automotive engineering. Okay, you have solid coursework, you have got an excellent GPA, you were able to do good research during your masters as well. Now, what happens is the degree that you got now, if you look at manufacturing or automotive engineering jobs, they are generally, in specific locations. They are not available all over the place. So even if you have, for example, you have a degree from a good university in the US in manufacturing or automotive engineering, but the location you got it from is not very doesn't have any of those manufacturing industries or anything nearby, then it is going to be a little bit of a problem for you, because they will, every time they want to interview you, they want to see your work, you have to go and visit them. There is all going to be an additional charge that is involved. But at the same time, if you are in a place where there are a lot of these companies locally, then it becomes easier for them to hire you. Okay. Now, the other thing is, again, this is from country to country. Work authorization is always going to be a problem, in the sense the companies have to be very sure and or confident that the person that they want to hire is actually worth all the efforts they are going to take in getting a work authorization for them. Moreover, in countries like Germany, for example, or many of the European countries, the local language is preferred. So if you don't have any, you don't know the local language at all, then that may also work out against you. So these are the problems that come up when you have to choose. So you should choose your country specifically depending on the course. Okay. So in such cases, like I was telling you, your country matters more. So if you're doing, for example, an automotive engineering course And then Germany is a good location to target for that, because they do have a lot of auto industries. Sorry. They do have a lot of auto industries. At the same time, learning the German language would actually be beneficial for you if you haven't already done it. So these are some of the factors that you have to keep in mind when you're choosing your course and your country. Okay, so I hope this has been clear. Now let's again to summarize. These are the three variables that decide your country fit. Okay, so the career market. So first of all, don't just look at the 2 years that you're going to spend in the university. Look at what is going to happen after the 2 years. What are the job prospects? What are the visa chances? What are the visa requirements that are going to be needed to take it care of? So that is the one thing. Also the ROI. What I'm talking about here is, depending on your financial situation, I'll talk a little bit more about that in the subsequent slides. You may want to see which country will be able to give you results faster. Okay. I'll talk about that in a bit, but that is something that you have to consider. And visa optionality. Here you have to see if the straight forward path does not work out, do you have any backup options? Is this country forgiving enough to give you some backup options, or does it mean that you have to pack your bags and come back home? So these are the three variables that will decide which country is going to going to be fitting for your profile. Okay, so just to summarize this part, risk versus reward, the high upside systems allow you for rapid growth. So certain countries, certain markets, you can grow very rapidly in your career, but there is a higher risk in terms of visa. If you pick a stable system, what happens is there are lesser shocks there, but you also have, your career growth also happens at a lesser speed as compared to the higher upside system. Okay, so these are some of the trade-offs that you have to decide, and I'll also talk about what factors will help you decide these trade-offs. Okay, now this is a very important factor, money, or how are you going to fund your education. Now obviously everybody we talk to, all the students we talk to, the first question they want to know is, will I get an assistantship, will I get a scholarship? Everybody wants a scholarship. I have not met a student so far who has said that, oh, I don't need any scholarship. No, everybody wants the scholarship. Now, the thing is, it's not very easy to get scholarships, especially in the current situation where many students are opting to go abroad for their higher education degrees. The competition is very fierce. Moreover, in many universities, the funding is also less as compared to it was few years ago. So the competition is very high, the supply is less. So obviously the demand, it is going to be difficult to fulfill everybody's demands. Okay. So it is very important that when you decide to study abroad, you keep in mind that there is a good chance you will not get any scholarship and you will have to pay for your education. Now, there are two options. One is the personal funds. That is, if you have enough money, whether you have been working for a few years or your family is ready to support you. So those are the personal funds. Or you can take an educational loan. Now, in such cases, what happens is, let's talk about the personal funds case. Here, you have been lucky enough that you have the money or your family has enough money to sponsor your education. So in such cases, you can go for your degree and take your time in understanding, which university. You can take some risks. You may have to say, for example, you finish your degree and you don't get a job right away. You don't have to worry so much because you don't have to pay off a loan. Whereas students who have taken a loan for their education, they are on a clock, in the sense once they finish their degree, they have to get a job and they have to pay back the loan that they took for their education. So again, here you have to look at options that are going to work for you. So if you know that you are going to be availing an education loan, then you need to go to a country where you are guaranteed that you will get good employment right after you finish your degree, or within a few months after you finish your degree. Whereas for cash-backed students or students who are using their personal funds, funds, they can choose a country where the education is extremely good, but you may take some time to find a job. In such cases, it is better to look at your own financial situation and then decide what is going to work for you. Because if you take a loan, but you also don't go to a country where getting a job for your particular program is a little difficult and there is some struggle involved, then it is just going to add to your stress and your parents' stress, to figure out how are you going to pay for the loan. So these are some of the factors that you will have to think about when you decide which country to choose. Okay. Now, the other thing that also becomes an issue with many students is everybody is very excited to get their first job, obviously. And then they decide, okay, now I've got my first job, now I can move anytime I want. Now, that is not the case. Many times, once you get your first job, it is tied to some certain visa conditions. It is, you are on a work visa, so which has to be sponsored by by your company. So it's very important whether you can change jobs or not. Okay, if you change jobs, what happens to your work visa? Is it easily transferred? Do you go back to the queue? These are some of the again challenges that have to be there. So otherwise, what happens is your first job, it may be a job that you have taken just for the experience because you have finished studying, you don't have experience. So you say, okay, let me take up this job because it has come through. But the perks may not be that great. You may not be getting paid that well, but that particular employer is doing your visa. In such a case, you may get stuck in that position. So even though you could have done better by finding a higher paying job, you may be stuck in this job because of other factors. So this is the kind of challenge that you have to face. So again, choosing a country where there is role mobility, what I mean is if you transfer your jobs, your visa also gets transferred. So these are some of the options that you will have to look out as well. Okay. Now we've talked some general things. Let's talk about specific countries. I'm only going to talk about the popular countries here. I can't talk about all the countries. So I'll give you the upsides and downsides of each country so that you have a fair amount of idea when we complete this session today. Okay. Now, the US is always known as the deepest hiring market just because the enormous number of universities, the enormous number of industries that are available there, and any type of job, the research, the technical jobs, any of those things, US is always known to have the deepest hiring markets there. It allows for role changes. It allows for employer switches. Now, when I say it allows for employer switches, it depends where. If you are on the work visa, the H-1B visa, then it does allow you to switch your jobs slightly more easily. But if you are beyond that, if you are in the if you are in the stage where you're processing your permanent residency and things like that, no, then you cannot switch jobs. So that is something that you have to keep in mind if you pick US as your country. Again, when I say retries after failure, all of you may know that for STEM programs, you can keep retrying for the H-1B visa multiple times as long as you're on OPT, because you get an OPT of 12 months plus 24 months. So that's what it means for retries after failure. Okay. Now, what happens is in the past few months, all of you may be aware of what is happening there. So there has been some visa uncertainty. Many people have not been going to opting for the US currently just because of the current situation. They are not sure. So again, while US still remains the best for students in many forms, there are some of these challenges that you have to take. So what I would suggest is if US is one of your destination countries, you always have a backup plan in parallel as to what happens. Go with the mindset that things are uncertain. I will first go for my degree, then I'll think about after my degree, the job and the residency part later. Don't go you right now in the US, you will not be able to go with the plan that my next 10 to 12 years are set. You have to take it as it comes. So for now, my advice would be you will get great education. So go with the mindset that this is the education I want and I want to get it. I'll make the most out of it. About the job, that I will have to see later. Okay. So it kind of contradicts what I was saying all this time, that you have to plan ahead, but that is the current situation in the US. So you need to have fallback options. Europe. Europe, on the other hand, has generally been stable. It has lower acceleration. That is, you don't get paid as fast as you would in the other countries. But it also has lesser shocks. Sudden shocks are very rare. Hiring is all the disadvantage is the reason why I say the acceleration is slow is because the hiring is regional. So, like I said, they try to hire their local candidates first. The language matters. So, if you are going to study in the Europe, it is very important that you are aware of their local, you learn their local language so that it improves your chances. And any other kind of mobility takes time. So, these are some of the things that you will have to keep in mind if Europe is one of the options that you want to take. Okay. So Europe generally rewards students who think in terms of 5 to 10 years and not for immediate this. You're not going to get immediate results if you pick Europe as your choice for your PG programs. Okay. Let's talk about Canada. Now, the Canada has excellent universities, excellent programs. Of course, the weather is extreme over there, but if you are able to adapt, then it's a great country to be in. Now, because their rules were very clear and because of various other reasons over there, um, there was a huge rush of international students to Canada. And because their also rules were a little more relaxed, there was a lot of profile saturation, and that caused a lot of problems with respect to getting jobs after you finish your degree, which is why 2 years ago Canada went through a set of changes wherein they tried to do everything right for the international students. Now you have to go through a very strict process of screening, but once you get that point where you have got the admit and you have reached there, then things are better for you. Okay. So again, Canada, I would say that because the process is very strict now and it's more organized, you pick it if you are, aware of these challenges that you may face. Okay. But again, like I said, if you pick the right programs in the right universities, it is a great place to be in. And then, of course, the job opportunities are also better. Okay, let's talk about Asia. Now, in the last few years, couple of years at least, Asia has become one of the leading destinations as well. Now, the nice thing about the countries here is that they reward clarity and speed, and your outcomes can be very fast if you are very targeted and you work towards your goal very clearly. The disadvantage of the system here is you cannot have any experimentation. The nice thing about the US, for example, is you could take courses in various departments. Of course, you have to pay for everything, but you could explore, you could see if there is something else that you like. And that kind of gives you a lot of flexibility in deciding your final course, especially at the undergrad level. But Asia is very clear. They have very less tolerance for any kind of experimentation. They basically say that if you come here, you have to come with a program in mind and then stick to that program. The options for changing those programs are also very difficult. So it only works for students who know their target program, who know that they will not waver from that, and they will stick to that program towards till the end. Okay. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit in detail about the actual programs. Now, STEM careers, generally the market depth is very high, so the brand does not matter so much. Because the brand is so high, even if you do not have the perfect resume, you will get a chance to interview. Even if there are gaps in your skills, you don't have all the gaps that are needed for particularly fulfilling a job requirements, you will still be given a chance to you know, apply for those jobs, and you may be even interviewed. There may be some learning on the go that you will have to do, but it still works out fine. Delayed readiness is okay, in the sense that you will be given that bandwidth to come on to a job and then learn about it as well. But all of this cannot, these kind of factors will not be entertained in a smaller market. Okay, so that is the challenge again. Like I said, depending on the program that you are choosing, choose the country wisely, so that all of these things work out favorably for you. Now there is also an option, a chance that all of these factors may not work out. In such cases, you will have to weigh the pros and cons and decide accordingly. Okay. So, based on whatever I have said, what I'm trying to say is that the employability scale matters more than the university prestige when you are looking for STEM programs. Now, when you're looking for management or MBA careers, we have generally seen that employers are very picky about the MBA students that they hire. And many times the alumni networks play a very important role in these factors. So it's very important that you, when you go into any program, you have good connections with the alumni network there, so that it helps you out with your job prospects. Geography also becomes a very important part of your credibility. So again, a great MBA in the wrong location can actually work against you instead of working for you. Okay. PhD and research paths. Now, this is again a very tricky situation, because generally it is known to everyone that a PhD admission is given with a full scholarship, because it's a long 5-year program, and the advisors want to make sure that when they invest in a student for a PhD program, the student can spend 100% of their time in just working on the research, as opposed to worrying about paying their bills, taking on campus jobs that they will need to make their ends meet. Okay, now the disadvantage of this problem, sorry, the disadvantage of having full scholarship is that many students who don't have the aptitude for research, or who don't think, or who have never thought of doing a PhD, think that, okay, I'll do a PhD just because I'll get funding. They may really not know how rigorous the program is, the amount of research they'll have to do, and how it can be very tiring over the process. So it's very important that you understand totally what you're getting into. Okay, so do not take the PhD option thinking that I'll finish 2 years, get enough credits for my masters, and then I'll leave the university. No, many universities are aware that students are doing that, and they are not allowing that anymore. So if you decide to try something like that, you may actually end up with no degree and 2 years of your life wasted in trying to get a degree. Okay, so now here again, so like I said, funding will dictate your research direction a lot. So it's very important that for a particular type of research, you understand where the funding lies and apply to those countries, reach out to those professors, and that way they are able to um, guide you properly and give you a offer for admission. Secondly, mobility varies by system. What I mean to say is, um, you need to make sure that during your PhD, you form excellent networks, you do a lot of networking, so that when it comes for a job, they are not looking at specific people from like I said before, a PhD. Jobs after PhD, they do not look at geography more, they will more look at the research output. So it is very important that the research you do is credible, is well known, and it reaches out to a lot of people via networking while you're doing your PhD. So that way you are more familiar with the experts in your field. Okay. Some systems enable easy postdoc. For example, in the US, it's slightly more easier to get a postdoc position after finishing your PhD as opposed to the other countries. So these kind of things also, again, it will depend on what your plan is, whether you want to do a postdoc, whether you want to go into research directly, whether you want to go into academia, whether you want to go into industry. So these are kind of the choices that will dictate your PhD and your research path as well. Okay, now let's take a couple of case studies so that way you understand. I have two students that I'm going to talk about here. One is Simran and the other is Jyoti Shri. Both of them came to us, came to Galvanize with the idea that they want to do something in uh, bioinformatics. Now, for Simran, what happened was she was interested in the US primarily because she had lot of prior publication experience, and she wanted to be in a lab environment which kind of aligned with the US research expectations. Okay, so the US gave her the scale of opportunity, the exposure, and she was able to get into a lab and start her PhD right away. Whereas Jyotishri came to us with the idea that she wants to do a PhD, but sorry, she wants to do a master's with an option for doing a PhD later. So we decided to look at more research intensive programs for her, and that we found were in the Europe market. So here what happens is she had strong academics and the computational projects that were available in these universities. It helped fit her research model. And also the financial pressure was low. So while she didn't have to worry about, what happens if I don't get full scholarship, it kind of helped her to keep that stress in check as well. Okay. So here is a summary. Basically, like I said, based on the core strength, the first case, she was very clear that after she finishes her master's, she wants to go into the industry. Whereas in the second case, the student was very clear that she wants to stay in research. So that's why we picked universities and the countries in such a way. So staying in the US market gave her more options for industry, and staying in the Europe market gave the second student more options for research after she finished her master's. Okay. Let's look at one more example. Here I have Chirag, who was interested in the automotive engineering and automotive engineering. Now, so obviously we recommended Germany to him because while he got good education, he was also able to have lot of options for working with the industry in Germany itself. So there was a strong alignment with the design, auto optimization, automotive and industrial systems that were available. So he had an application focused profile which matched very well with Germany's industry linked model. Okay. And after that, he had clear pathways into the industry in Europe as well. Now we had another student, Tarun, who also was from the same background, but he was very clear that he wanted to do deep research. Okay. He wanted to go into one of the research ecosystems. So again, US worked out well in that this because after doing research in his masters, it also cleared a pathway for him to do a PhD if he is interested. So the work at UIUC is very lab driven culture where he was able to do research oriented masters, and then now if he decides that after his masters he's going to go for a PhD, there is a clear pathway for him. So again, very clear differences. Both of them came from the same background with the same kind of program that they were interested in. But one was interested in research, other was interested in applied engineering. So that particularly then decided which market to choose from. Okay. Again, they both went for masters. So while one of the students opting for US was okay with the higher cost, whereas Chirag, who opted for Germany, was very clear that he wanted a low cost tuition fee. So that's why Germany also worked out for him. Okay, I quickly want to talk about H1B since it's been in the news for so many months. There have been a lot of changes, but you have to understand many of those changes are done to make sure that the students who are actually getting the H1B are the ones who deserve it, that is, who have completed their degree, and there is no kind of complications in that. So, students, while I don't think they have to panic. They basically have to make sure, like I said, always have a backup plan. Make sure that the program that you're choosing for is something that is very well offered in that university, and you're not trying to go to that program just because you want to go there. So make sure those options are very clear. So the pathways are still there. They must have changed a little bit, but they have not disappeared. So now it is even more important that you strategize and apply as opposed to just blindly applying. Okay. So, quickly to wrap up the session, I want to say what are the universities looking for today? Because of the current situation, but universities have also become very careful about whom they are recruiting as part of their student community. Okay, obviously they all need international students because that is where universities in all countries are known to have excellent culture just because they have students from all over the world. So there is never going to be a situation where they're going to stop recruiting international students for admission for masters, PhD, MBA, and so on. But at the same time they want enrollment stability, so they are going to see your profile and really make sure that you are available. You will There is a good chance that you will attend the university, which also then they want lower deferrals. So which is why we have seen that off late universities don't allow you to change your intake. If you have been admitted for a fall intake, you are expected to attend that fall intake. Otherwise, if you want to go after 6 months or 1 year, they ask you to reapply. Okay, so that is the thing. Visa safe profiles, obviously they want to make sure that anybody that they are extending admissions to has a good profile, does not have any red flags in their profile, and will easily go through the visa stage. And again, the next thing is they want to hire candidates who are good, who are skilled, so that once they get a degree from their university, those candidates are also employable, which obviously then, increases the value of the university as well. Okay. So what I would suggest today is that after this session, I hope it was useful for all of you. Make a checklist, see which countries are allowing you to have this kind of flexibility, which countries allow you to have a backup plan. What are the pros and cons of each country? What are the pros and cons for the program that you decide, and then choose the country. So keep these things in mind. Okay. So to wrap up the session, like I said in the beginning, we do offer test prep courses as well. So if you're still in your starting stages of, deciding that you want to go abroad, but you want to know the step, the one of the first things you will have to do is take some tests. So if you need help with that, please connect with us. Um, Most of you will have to take the IELTS or TOEFL to go abroad because we are not an English speaking country. In such cases, while universities accept all the English language tests, TOEFL is generally known to be a little more easier. It's lesser than 2 hours. The test session can be completed in one sitting itself. Um, and all the tests will test you for the same reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Okay. So these are some of the advantages of taking the TOEFL. Okay, to wrap up, so we have helped students from many countries to reach to more than 1,000+ universities. So do connect with us, book on a call. I know that I didn't give very specific information about which country you should target because that is very specific and very personalized. So to give you that information, we will need to see your resume. We will need to have a chat with you, understand your aspirations, understand your goals. So please make it a point to reach out to us. Fill the form that Sahil will be posting on the chat box. and you will be able to go ahead and start getting a call from us, and we will be able to give you that information. Okay, so if you have, I think that's all from my side. If you have any questions, please, you can type it in the chat box, or we can unmute you and take your questions.
Guys, I have shared the TOEFL free course link on the chat box and a profile evaluation link. I request everyone to sign up for the same. Up next, if you have any questions, please raise your hands and I can unmute you so you can ask your questions directly to Ms. Jayanthy. Any questions, guys? Okay, so Payal has raised a hand. Just a second. Payal, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, so thank you, ma'am, for this informative and elaborative session. So my question is that about USA. If I choose USA and the current politics of USA is quite concerning to me at least. So if I go for apply to the US universities or US PhD programs and I get selected, but then what would be my visa process like? What are the precautions that I can take, or how should I prepare that I can assure a visa so
Okay.
that my application process doesn't go west?
Yeah. So, first of all, what you would need to do is basically apply to universities which are well ranked. What I mean is you're applying for a PhD program. So, anyway, it's a niche program, and not your particular research is not going to be available in all the universities. So, that will automatically rule out the low ranked university. So, first condition is that you apply to get an admission from a good university. Now, if you're able to get assistantship from the university, normally for PhD programs, you will get assistantship, even if it's the US. If you're able to get assistantship, then that makes your case for the visa very easy. When you go for the visa process, make sure that you have all your documents in order. That is, all your financial documents. If you need to show any kind of financial support from back home, if you don't need financial support, that is, if your university has already given you a scholarship, it will still be good to know, good to show them that you have some funds in your account, so that, if something goes wrong in the US, you still have some funds to help you out with. In addition to that, with respect to social media, I mean, I know that you may be applying next year or the year after that, but make sure that your social media is very clean. You don't have any, disturbing remarks over there. You have not talked about any, any of the current politics or anything. Basically, don't have anything that makes you look that you're against the US in any way. So then that is what they're looking for. They're looking for a clean slate, basically. So as long as you're able to give this, when you actually go for the interview, make sure you're very confident. You know what program you have applied for. You should be very clear and be able to tell them very clearly um, on why you are applying to this program, what you are planning to do, and things like that. Ideally, you also want to make sure that you don't hint that you are going to stay back over there. You want to make sure that they want to know that your intention of going there is to only study and not settle down. Yeah. So
Okay,
these
thank
are
you so much,
the
ma'am.
follow. Yeah.
Yeah, and will it be like, is it applicable for like humanities? Like I'm from English literature background, so is it applicable as well as for STEM as well as for humanities literature, comparative literature departments too, right? For like a PhD program in such departments.
The visa requirements.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're the same. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
So there's next question from Arshad. I'll just unmute you. Uh, Arshad, you can start.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
I would like to know that being an average student, I have a 4 year gap after my BTech in computer science, and now I've been working for about 4 years in a government organization. So should I even try this? I would like to ask. Do I even stand a chance?
So, was your work related to computer science?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Then you have a good chance. The number of years of experience or the number of years after your degree is not going to be a setback for you. As long as you're able to say that, in your essays that you submit your application, as long as you're able to say that, okay, you studied and then you worked for 4 years to gain some experience, and you're able to bring the experience that you gained during your working days into your essays, into your application, it will be fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys? Okay, I see no questions. No one is raising hand. Okay. Fine, Jayanthy, let's wrap up.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining this wonderful session. Thank you, Jayanthy ma'am, for this wonderful presentation.